Is California on the brink of civil unrest? Could the US military be deployed inside American cities? These are not questions from a movie trailer. These are real questions right now in the United States. It sounds crazy, I know. You hear military in the streets and you think of some far-off country on the news, not the place that gave us Hollywood and avocados. But here we are. The situation in California has escalated so quickly that it feels like the nation is holding its breath. The images we are seeing are shocking. They look like scenes from a dystopian future, but they are happening today, on American soil. The streets of Los Angeles, a city known for sunshine and celebrities, have turned into a battlefield. Protesters are clashing with police. We've seen videos of self-driving Waymo cars, the symbol of Silicon Valley's future, engulfed in flames. Federal buildings have been vandalized, and major freeways like the 101 have been completely shut down by crowds of people. This isn't just a small group of angry people. The unrest has spread to other cities like San Francisco and Santa Ana, and solidarity protests are even popping up in places like New York and Austin. It's a sign that the anger and frustration are not just a California thing. What makes this different, what makes it truly alarming, is the response from the federal government. President Donald Trump has ordered National Guard troops into Los Angeles, but here's the wild part. He did it without the governor's permission. Think about that for a second. The federal government sent the military into a state against the will of that state's elected leader. That's a line that hasn't been crossed in decades. It's a move that fundamentally changes the relationship between Washington, D.C. and the states, turning a political disagreement into a full-blown constitutional crisis. This isn't just a protest anymore, it's a direct confrontation. On one side, you have the state of California, led by Governor Gavin Newsom, saying this is an illegal overreach of federal power. On the other, you have the White House, arguing it's necessary to restore order and protect federal property. In the middle are the American people, watching soldiers and military vehicles roll through the streets of a major U.S. city. It raises a terrifying question. If this can happen in Los Angeles, where else can it happen? The stakes are incredibly high, and it feels like we are in uncharted territory. So how did we get here? What was the spark that lit this massive fire? It all started with a series of immigration raids. On Friday, June 6th, Federal Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE, agents conducted a major operation in Los Angeles. They arrested over 100 immigrants. For the federal government, this was about enforcing the law. But for many Californians, this was an attack on their neighbors, their friends, and their families. Los Angeles has over 1 million immigrants, and the city officially declared itself a sanctuary city just last year. This means local police are not supposed to help with federal immigration enforcement. This brings us to the core of the conflict, a massive standoff between the state and the federal government. California has a law called the California Values Act, which basically makes the entire state a sanctuary state. It's a direct challenge to the federal government's hardline immigration policies. So when federal agents came in for these raids, it wasn't just an enforcement action. It was seen as a direct slap in the face to California's laws and its values. The protests that followed were not just about the raids themselves, they were about this much bigger fight over who gets to make the rules. The state of California, as you can imagine, is not taking this lying down. Governor Newsom and the state's Attorney General, Rob Bonta, immediately filed a lawsuit against the Trump administration. They called the deployment of the National Guard without their consent illegal and immoral. They argue that the federal troops are not helping. They are actually making things worse by provoking more anger and chaos. It's like trying to put out a fire with gasoline. The state says, these are our streets, our people, and you are making it more dangerous. It's a legal and political war being fought in real time. Meanwhile, the rhetoric from Washington has been anything but calm. President Trump has been on social media calling for an aggressive response, tweeting things like, "Bring in the troops," and warning protesters of harsh consequences. His administration is doubling down, with the Department of Justice looking to take over prosecutions from local authorities. They are sending a clear message: we are in charge and we will use force to prove it. This aggressive stance has only deepened the divide, turning what could have been a local issue into a national symbol of a country at war with itself. You might be asking, why is this all exploding in California? Well, California isn't just any state. It's the most populous state in the nation. With an economy so large, it would be the 5th biggest in the world if it were its own country. But beneath the surface of Hollywood glamour and tech billions, the state has been struggling with deep systemic problems for years. These issues created the perfect storm for the current unrest. The anger we're seeing didn't just appear overnight. It's been simmering for a long time, waiting for a spark to set it off. First, let's talk about the housing crisis. It's not just a problem in California, it's a catastrophe. The cost of living is astronomical, and buying a home is an impossible dream for millions. This has led to a staggering homelessness crisis, with sprawling encampments becoming a common sight in major cities. When people feel that they can work hard their entire lives and still not afford a basic roof over their heads, it creates a powerful sense of hopelessness and anger. This economic desperation makes the population much more volatile and ready to protest against a system they feel has failed them. Then there are the issues of crime and public safety. While statistics can be debated, the perception for many residents is that crime is on the rise. This has created a deep sense of insecurity and has fueled heated political debates about how to handle law enforcement and criminal justice reform. This tension adds another layer of complexity to the protests. When people are already feeling unsafe in their communities, the sight of heavy-handed policing, or even more jarringly, military intervention, can be interpreted in very different ways, further polarizing the population and making a peaceful resolution much harder to achieve. Finally, California is the epicenter of America's immigration debate. With its long border with Mexico and its massive immigrant population, the state is on the front lines of a national argument that has become increasingly toxic. The clash between California's sanctuary policies and the federal government's enforcement-first approach was bound to lead to a head-on collision. The ICE raids were simply the trigger. All these underlying issues, economic inequality, homelessness, crime, and the immigration fight, have woven together to create a state on the edge, where a single event could unleash years of pent-up frustration. So now we have U.S. Marines and National Guard soldiers on the streets of Los Angeles. This is not a drill. Approximately 1,700 National Guard troops are already in the city, with 2,000 more on the way. On top of that, 700 active-duty Marines have been activated to protect federal buildings. Let that sink in. Active-duty military personnel are being used against American civilians on American soil. This is a monumental step. It's the kind of thing historians write books about. It's a test case for federal power, and the outcome will have consequences for every single state in the Union. This extreme tension has even brought back talk of Clexit. This is the idea that California should just secede from the United States and become its own independent country. Now, let's be clear, this is mostly just talk for now. It's more of a symbol of the deep frustration and the feeling that California and the federal government are living in two different realities with completely incompatible values. But the fact that the idea is being discussed at all shows how deep the divide has become. It's a political expression of a relationship that feels broken, perhaps beyond repair. Why should someone in Ohio or Florida or Montana care about this? Because what is happening in California is a stress test for the entire American system. It's testing the limits of states' rights versus federal authority. It's testing the role of the military in domestic affairs. And it's testing the very fabric of a nation that seems more divided than ever. The principles being debated in the streets of LA and in the courts are not just California's problems, they are America's problems. The resolution, or lack thereof, will set a precedent for the future of the entire country. This leaves us with a deeply unsettling question. Is this the peak of the crisis, or is it just the beginning of something much larger? We are watching a state and a federal government in open conflict, with the military caught in the middle. We are seeing American citizens protesting against their own government in scenes that look more like a war zone than a democracy. The situation is volatile, and it's evolving by the hour. So I have to ask you, where do you think this is headed? Could this conflict grow even bigger?